My name is Miles Postlethwaite for Turbine Services. What we do is we put in small-scale and medium-sized wind turbines for domestic, farm, business, schools, anything like that. What you see there is an example of a small turbine. The smallest one we do, that's a 2.5 kilowatt turbine. That's powering a house which is completely not on the mains. So they have a wind turbine with diesel backup. Now that's one way of doing it. The more common way is to have one connected into the mains, which is a cheaper way of doing it, and it's what most people go for. If you're considering wind power, the things you have to think about is, first of all, have you got room to put one? You can't put a turbine in a house. It won't generate any power. We know there were firms doing this recently, but it doesn't work. It's not on. So you have to have a space to put one. You need a reasonable space around your house. Better in the country than the town. We have one in Carlisle, but you know, you've got to pick your places. There are incentives now for turbines as there haven't been before. The new so-called feed-in tariffs, nothing to do with feeding power in, but they give you actually good money now for generating your power. That's a close-up of the one we just had. That's the one, as I said, 2.5 kilowatt. Basic off-grid system. They work, if you're not on the mains, most people are now. Your wind turbine charges a battery. An inverter turns the battery power into mains-type power for the house. So even though the turbine isn't generating power all the time, it's storing it in the battery. So you should be able to switch anything you want on in the house, the washing machine, whatever, and it just carries on as normal. You should get an uninterrupted supply. That's a picture of the sort of equipment you'd get in your garage or whatever, where the batteries will be underneath. That's the control equipment above it. That's a rather bigger machine. That's a 6 kilowatt. That's the most common size of wind turbine, which is grid connected. Most people now are going for, if you're domestic or small business, you go for a 6 kilowatt turbine. A turbine like that, they started in size-wise, you're talking about a 5.5 meter diameter blade, or 18 feet in old money. The tower size depends on how windy you are. The lowest tower is 30 feet. The next tower up is a 15 meter, which is a 50-foot tower, which is the most common in areas around here, which isn't the windiest place. Prices for a turbine, you're talking about, time you get it in and all done and dusted, probably about anything 22, 25, 26,000, something like that. Now then, how much power is that going to produce in a year? The point is, as you know, that it's only going to give you power when there's wind there. But you've got the mains, you won't get any breaks in the power, it all just mixes in together. It's how much power you generate over the year that counts, to how much you've saved on what you've spent, and how much you can get paid for what you generate. Now the new feed-in tariff, when you have an investment of £25,000–26,000, that's a lot of money. Now, in a domestic situation, it's going to take a fair while to pay for, even with the new feed-in tariff. But it will pay for itself, and in a long term, you'll get your money back, and you'll be making a little bit of money. Now, in an average windy site, a reasonably windy site, you can be getting £2,500 a year from that wind turbine for generating the power, not for selling it. That's just for generating it. You still get that power to use after that, or you can sell it. So that's on top of your £2,000 or £2,500. So turbines up to 15 kilowatts will give you can attract a payment of 26.7 pence per kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour is the same as a unit. An average house will use what? 5,000 units a year, 5,000 kilowatt hours. 6 kilowatt turbine in a fairly windy site will give you 9,000 or 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. So you're going to get, so your electricity use covered, and you've quite a lot left over. That won't do all your central heating as well. It'll drive the central heating pump, but it isn't going to do all the heating. But so you're talking about, if you do the maths, an investment of say £25,000, you've got an income of say £2,500 coming in a year, plus you're getting all that power from the turbine to use. And if you're not using half of it, you can sell half of it to the grid. They'll give you a guaranteed minimum of 3 pence per unit. So that's another £300 if you sold it all, which you wouldn't do. You should get better than 3 pence if you negotiate, shop around with the different suppliers, you know. and these are becoming very attractive now. A lot of people are going for these. For the first time now, farmers are buying wind turbines because you can actually do it as an investment, especially for the bigger ones. The 15 kilowatt, normally for a large house, country house or community building, now for farms. That's a 15 kilowatt. That one's all painted black, by the way. If you get half a mile away, you can hardly tell it's there. They blend into the background, especially with the dark blades. They don't particularly look much higher than farm buildings, and they don't. That turbine there, you can see, certainly nowhere near as high as that pylon behind it. Of these turbines, this make of turbine, there's about 3,000 of them out now. They're all over the world, but there's especially a lot of them in the UK. 15 kilowatt, all in, about £56,000, something like that. Payback about 6.5, 7 years in a reasonably windy place. Income off it, depending how windy you are, from the feed-in tariff alone, £6,000, £7,000, £8,000, depending how windy you are. That's every year. Guaranteed for 20 years, index linked. And if you're domestic, it's tax-free. Then you get the power to use after that or to sell. So that money you get, the feed-in tariff is just for generating it. After that, you still have all the power for yourself. I keep having to emphasize that. People think feed-in tariff is for selling the power. It's not. We get people who are going to be getting the feed-in tariff, and they're not even connected to the mains. There's no mains near them. They're still getting paid for the power. So it's a way of giving you an incentive to buy a turbine. Is to help you buy it. It's like a grant. And we have to get our act together now if we're going to keep our carbon footprint down. This country is by far the windiest in Europe. The UK has 40% of all the wind resource in Europe. It's like a free fuel going past, which we aren't really using.